Why? Raising your standards changes everything. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning, and everything in your life instantly improves. Your health, your income, your relationships, your confidence. People treat you with more respect. Opportunities find their way to you. And you feel, deep down, that you're living as the person you were always meant to be. Now here's the truth you need to hear. That version of your life is not a fantasy. It's simply the life that matches higher standards. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they have accepted a level of life that is less than what they truly want. They tolerate jobs that drain them, relationships that break them, habits that sabotage them. And here's the dangerous part. Over time, they call it normal. You see, your standards are like an invisible thermostat. They set the temperature of your life. No matter what happens, whether you win the lottery, lose your job, or meet the love of your life, you will eventually come back to that same temperature you've been living at for years. Raise that thermostat, and your entire reality rises with it. But here's the challenge. Raising your standards means change. And change is uncomfortable. It means looking at the areas of your life where you've been lying to yourself. It means admitting that you've been settling when you could have been striving. It means taking back control of your time, your energy, your environment, and refusing to accept anything that drags you back to the old you. In this audiobook, we're going to go far beyond setting goals. Goals are what you want. Standards are what you accept. You might have a goal to get fit, but if your standard is to skip workouts whenever you feel tired, your goal is meaningless. You might have a goal to start a business, but if your standard is to quit when things get hard, you'll never make it past the first obstacle. Raising your standards means making success non-negotiable. We'll break this down step by step. You're going to discover how to identify where you've been settling. You'll learn how to set non-negotiables that protect your self-respect. You'll see how the right people and environments can pull you higher, and how the wrong ones can drag you back down without you even noticing. You'll find out how to create habits that lock in your new standards for life, and what to do when challenges threaten to push you back. But I'll warn you now, this isn't about motivation that fades after a week. This is about transformation. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, "This is who I am now, and I refuse to live below that level ever again." By the time you finish this book, you won't just think differently. You'll be different. You'll start to see the world through the lens of someone who demands more, expects more, and gets more. So, if you're ready to stop settling, if you're ready to look in the mirror and see the person you were meant to be, then let's begin. Because the life you want isn't waiting for luck. It's waiting for you to raise your standards. Chapter 1. The Power of High Standards. If there's one truth you need to hold on to for the rest of your life, it's this. You don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to tolerate. And that's why high standards are so powerful. They don't just influence your life, they determine it. Think about it for a moment. Your standards dictate the quality of your health, the level of your income, the strength of your relationships, the respect you command, and even the way you see yourself in the mirror. If your standard is, "I'll work out when I feel like it," you'll never have the energy or body you dream about. If your standard is, "I'll work hard when it's convenient," you'll never reach financial independence. High standards are not just about ambition, they're about identity. The standard that shapes your identity. Here's the thing. Humans have a built-in need to stay consistent with the identity they believe they have. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you'll act in disciplined ways. If you see yourself as someone who is lazy, you'll unconsciously choose the path of least resistance, even when you want more. High standards force you to raise your identity. When you decide that skipping workouts is simply not who I am, you'll find a way to move your body no matter how tired you are. When you say, "I don't accept being in toxic relationships," you won't stay in situations that drain your spirit. Your standards aren't just rules, they're the foundation of who you are. Why high standards outperform goals. A lot of people confuse goals with standards, but they are not the same thing. A goal is something you hope to achieve. A standard is the minimum level you refuse to drop below. Think about a professional athlete. Their goal might be to win the championship, but their standard is to train every single day, even when they're sore, even when it's raining, even when they don't feel like it. The goal inspires them. The standard sustains them. If you rely on goals alone, you'll always be chasing motivation. But when you operate by high standards, you act whether you feel motivated or not. And that's when results become inevitable. The self-fulfilling prophecy of standards. Here's where it gets interesting. Once you set a high standard for yourself and truly commit to it, your brain begins searching for ways to meet it. This is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe, I'm the kind of person who always follows through, you'll naturally seek opportunities and make decisions that align with that belief. On the flip side, if your standard is low, your brain will find ways to justify staying at that level. It will protect you from discomfort, but it will also protect you from growth. That's why raising your standards is like changing the filter on your life. Suddenly, you stop accepting half effort from yourself, and you start demanding more, not because someone else told you to, but because it's simply who you are now. High standards filter your life. Here's a truth most people miss. High standards don't just change what you do, they change what you allow. When you raise your standards, you stop allowing people to speak to you in disrespectful ways. You stop tolerating environments that drain your energy. You stop letting small excuses creep into your daily habits. It's like upgrading your filter. The same way clean water can only flow through a clean filter, a high-quality life can only flow through high standards. And yes, that means you will lose some things when you raise your standards. You may lose certain friendships, jobs, or routines that no longer fit. But here's the gift. Every time you let go of something that drags you down, you create space for something better to take its place. The ripple effect of high standards. When you commit to higher standards, you won't just see results in one area, you'll see them everywhere. Decide to hold yourself to a higher standard in your health, and suddenly you have more energy to perform better at work. Raise your standards for the people you date, and you'll naturally raise your standards for how you treat yourself. Elevate your standard for how you spend your time, and you'll find yourself cutting out mindless scrolling, replacing it with learning, building, and growing. High standards have a ripple effect because they send a signal to your subconscious. This is the new normal. And your subconscious will work tirelessly to keep you there. Why some people resist high standards. Of course, the moment you start demanding more from yourself, you'll notice something strange. Not everyone will be happy about it. Some people will say, "You've changed," as if that's a bad thing. Others will try to convince you to relax or be realistic. But understand this. People who are comfortable with low standards feel threatened by those who refuse to settle. It forces them to confront the fact that they could be doing more, but aren't. That's why you can't raise your standards for validation. You have to do it for you. Because the truth is, people may not always cheer for you at the start, but they will respect you in the end. The turning point. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize they've been living below their potential. Maybe it's a quiet moment, like looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. Maybe it's loud and dramatic, a breakup, a job loss, a health scare. But in that moment, you're faced with a choice. You can keep living the same way and hope things get better. Or you can decide, right here and right now, that you will never again accept the old version of you. That decision, that moment of raising your standards, is the turning point. Living proof. History is full of examples of people who raised their standards and changed their lives. Oprah Winfrey refused to accept the limitations of her childhood and demanded excellence from herself. Michael Jordan held himself to a standard of relentless practice, even when he was already considered the best. J.K. Rowling raised her standard from struggling single mother to best-selling author by committing to her craft every single day, even when no one believed in her. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They decided what they would accept from themselves, and nothing less. Your challenge. Before we move to the next chapter, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take a hard look at your life right now. Where are you tolerating less than you deserve? Where are you letting convenience win over commitment? Where are you talking about change but not acting on it? Write it down. Be honest with yourself. Because in the next chapter, we're going to take those areas and begin identifying exactly how to raise the bar, so you stop talking about change and start living it. High standards aren't about being perfect. They're about refusing to go back to the person you no longer want to be. And once you understand that, you'll never settle again. Chapter 2. Identifying your current standards. Before you can raise your standards, you have to know exactly where they are right now. Think of it like renovating a house. If you don't inspect the foundation, you might end up painting over cracks instead of repairing them. In life, most people skip this step. They jump straight into setting new goals without realizing they're still operating with the same old limits. In this chapter, we're going to strip away the illusions and get brutally honest about where your standards are. In your health, your relationships, your career, your finances, your habits, and even your thoughts. Because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. The truth about your standards. Here's the hard truth. Your current life is the clearest reflection of your standards. Look at your bank account. That's your financial standard. Look at your calendar. That's your time management standard. Look at your body. That's your health and discipline standard. Look at your relationships. That's your emotional and communication standard. It's not about judgment. It's about awareness. Because once you see where you're operating, you can decide whether to stay there or level up. The silent influence of standards. Standards are sneaky. They don't shout at you. They whisper. You don't suddenly wake up in a life you're unhappy with. You drift there, one small compromise at a time. You skip one workout. You accept a rude comment from someone you care about. You say yes to a job that doesn't challenge you. And before you know it, those small compromises have built your normal. This is why identifying your current standards is so powerful. It forces you to confront the compromises you've been tolerating. Step 1. Take inventory without sugarcoating. Grab a notebook. Write down the key areas of your life. Health and fitness. Finances and career. Relationships and social circle. Personal growth and mindset. Environment and lifestyle. Under each category, ask yourself, what am I currently tolerating? For example, in health, I skip workouts more often than I do them. In finances, I live paycheck to paycheck and avoid looking at my bank statements. In relationships, I stay in friendships that leave me drained. In personal growth, I haven't learned a new skill in years. In environment, my workspace is cluttered and I waste hours on distractions. The key here is honesty without excuses. This is not about feeling guilty. It's about waking up. Step 2. Spot the patterns. When you look at your answers, you'll probably notice something. Patterns. Maybe your standard in one area is directly affecting another. Example. If your health standard is low, you have less energy at work. If your financial standard is low, it's creating stress in your relationships. The more patterns you find, the more you'll see that raising your standards in one area can have a domino effect on everything else. Step 3. Identify the source of your standards. Most of your standards didn't come from conscious choice. They came from your environment. You learned them from your family, your friends, your culture, your past experiences. If your parents had a standard of money is always tight, you might have unconsciously adopted that belief. If your friends think working out is too much effort, You might have lowered your health standard to fit in. The danger here is that we often inherit standards without questioning them. Part of raising your standards is asking, who taught me this, and do I still want to live by it? Step 4. Separate standards from goals. Earlier, we talked about the difference between goals and standards. Here's how to apply that now. A goal is something like, I want to save $10,000. A standard is, I save 20% of my income every month, no matter what. A goal is, I want to run a marathon. A standard is, I train 4 times a week, no matter the weather. When you review your inventory, turn each area's goal into a minimum acceptable standard. That's the baseline you will never drop below. The emotional resistance. Let's be real, this process can feel uncomfortable. It's hard to admit that you've been living with lower standards than you want. It can trigger guilt, regret, or even defensiveness. But here's the reframe. You're not doing this to punish yourself for the past. You're doing this to empower yourself for the future. You can't change what you refuse to confront. Every successful person you admire has gone through this process. They've looked themselves in the mirror and said, enough. This is not who I am anymore. The pain principle. One of the fastest ways to raise your standards is to associate deep pain with staying the same. Think about the areas you wrote down. Now ask, if I keep operating at this level for the next 5 years, where will I end up? Will your health decline? Will your finances trap you in the same place? Will your relationships grow colder? Visualize it clearly. Feel the discomfort of that reality. Because the stronger your emotional why, the easier it becomes to break free from your old standards. The mirror test. Here's a simple but powerful test. Imagine you're introducing yourself to a stranger, and they instantly know your habits, your mindset, your work ethic, your self-respect. Would you be proud of the person they see? If the answer is, not yet, then you've just identified the exact gap between your current standards and the person you want to become. Your new awareness. By now, you should have a clear picture of your current standards in each area of life. An understanding of where those standards came from. The emotional motivation to change them. And that's the most important step, awareness. Because you can't raise something you can't see. In the next chapter, we're going to turn that awareness into action by defining your non-negotiables, the things you will no longer tolerate, the lines you will never cross again, and the commitments you will keep no matter what. Low standards are like a slow leak in your life. They don't destroy you overnight, but they drain your potential drop by drop. Today, you've found the leaks. Next, we're going to seal them permanently. Chapter 3. The Pain of Staying the Same. Human beings are wired to avoid pain. That's why we procrastinate, why we stay in our comfort zones, and why we settle for less than we're capable of achieving. But here's the paradox. The pain we're trying to avoid today often becomes the greater pain we end up living with tomorrow. If you've ever wondered why so many people stay stuck, in unfulfilling jobs, in unhealthy relationships, in poor health, it's because they've gotten comfortable with a certain level of pain. It's familiar. It's predictable. And in some strange way, that predictability feels safer than change. But if you're listening to this audiobook, I know one thing about you. You're not here to live with the pain of regret. You're here to rise. And to do that, we have to get brutally honest about what it's costing you to stay exactly where you are. The comfort zone trap. Imagine a small, warm room. The lighting is dim, the chair is soft, the temperature is perfect. You sit down and you feel safe. This is your comfort zone. It's where your current standards live. But here's the problem. Outside that cozy little room is a whole world of opportunities, experiences, and growth. The walls of your comfort zone keep them out, and they keep you in. Every day you stay in that room, you pay a price. Maybe not in money, but in potential, in energy, in joy, and in time, the one thing you can never get back. The hidden cost of staying the same. The pain of staying the same is subtle at first. You might not even notice it. It looks like feeling tired even after a full night's sleep. Feeling restless but not sure why. Watching other people grow while you feel stuck. Telling yourself, one day I'll change, and realizing one day has turned into years. This is the quiet suffering that comes from living below your potential. And here's the truth, that pain doesn't go away. It grows. Why discomfort is a gift. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your signal. It's life's way of saying, this isn't enough for you anymore. When you feel the ache of dissatisfaction, you have two choices. Push it away, distract yourself, and pretend it's not there. Listen to it, use it, and let it push you to demand more from yourself. Most people choose the first option, and that's why they stay stuck. But the most successful people you know, they use pain as fuel. They let the discomfort of staying the same burn hotter than the fear of change. And when that happens, change is no longer optional. It's inevitable. The pain-pleasure equation. Here's something powerful to understand. We move toward pleasure, and we move away from pain. The problem is, most people have the equation backwards. They associate pain with taking action, going to the gym, starting a business, setting boundaries. And they associate pleasure with staying the same, resting, avoiding risk, keeping the peace. But if you flip the equation in your mind, everything changes. When you link massive pain to staying the same, and massive pleasure to taking action, your brain will fight to help you grow instead of holding you back. For example, staying the same in your health means years of low energy, missed opportunities, and possible illness. That's pain. Taking action means feeling stronger, living longer, and having more confidence. That's pleasure. Once you wire your mind this way, discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about protecting yourself from the greater pain of regret. Facing the future you don't want. One of the most powerful exercises you can do is to project yourself 5 or 10 years into the future, living exactly as you are now. Close your eyes and picture it. What will your body look and feel like if you keep the same habits? What will your bank account look like if you keep the same spending patterns? What will your relationships feel like if you keep communicating, or not communicating, the way you do now? If that picture doesn't inspire you, let it scare you. Because that's the cost of staying the same. The pain of regret versus the pain of discipline. There are only two types of pain in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The pain of discipline is temporary. It's the sting of waking up early to work out, the discomfort of saying no to things that waste your time, the awkwardness of setting boundaries. It's hard in the moment, but it passes quickly. The pain of regret is permanent. It's looking back and wishing you had started sooner. It's knowing you could have done more, but you didn't. It's wondering what could have been if you had just raised your standards earlier. Which pain do you want to live with? Because you will live with one of them. The choice is yours. Why most people choose the wrong pain? Most people choose the pain of regret, not consciously, but because they avoid the short-term discomfort of discipline. They think, I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week. Next week turns into next year. And before they know it, they've built a life that's comfortable enough to survive in, but not inspiring enough to thrive in. This is why it's so important to feel the pain of staying the same now, before it's too late. Turning pain into power. Here's the mindset shift. Instead of avoiding discomfort, chase it. When you feel fear, when you feel resistance, when you feel that urge to back down, it's a sign you're stepping out of your old standards and into higher ones. That's progress. That's growth. The people who transform their lives don't run from pain. They lean into it. They understand that growth feels uncomfortable because you're becoming someone you've never been before. Your turning point. Every great change starts with a breaking point, a moment when you say, enough is enough. For some, it's triggered by a crisis. For others, it's a slow build of dissatisfaction until it reaches a boiling point. You don't have to wait for a crisis to make that decision. You can choose your breaking point today. Decide that the pain of staying the same is no longer tolerable. Decide that you'd rather feel the short-term discomfort of change than the lifelong ache of regret. Decide that the person you're becoming matters more than the comfort you're leaving behind. The bridge to the next chapter. Now that you understand the cost of staying the same, it's time to create the rules that will protect you from ever slipping back into old patterns. In the next chapter, we'll define your non-negotiables, the clear, unshakable boundaries that will keep your standards high and your growth unstoppable. But for now, I'll leave you with this. The pain you feel today is the price of your transformation. Pay it now, or pay far more later. Chapter 4. Defining your non-negotiables. If you want to raise your standards and keep them high, you need one thing above all else: non-negotiables. A non-negotiable is exactly what it sounds like. Something you refuse to compromise on, no matter the situation, no matter the excuse, no matter the pressure. It's a rule that you live by. It's a line in the sand that says, I don't cross this, and I don't let anyone else cross it either. Non-negotiables are not about being inflexible. They're about protecting your self-respect. They're about making sure that no matter what's going on around you, you stay true to who you are and the life you're building. If you've ever wondered why people with high standards seem so consistent, it's because their lives run on these unshakable rules. Today, you're going to create yours. Why non-negotiables matter. Let's face it, life is unpredictable. You're going to have tough days. You're going to be tired, stressed, tempted, and tested. If your standards rely only on feeling motivated, you're going to slip a lot. But when you have non-negotiables, they don't care how you feel. They don't care if you're in the mood. They don't care if it's convenient. They are the bare minimum you will accept from yourself, the foundation that keeps your standards from crumbling when life gets messy. Think of them like guardrails on a mountain road. Without them, one small distraction can send you over the edge. With them, you stay on course no matter what bumps you hit. The difference between goals, standards, and non-negotiables. We've already talked about goals versus standards, but now we're going a level deeper. Goals are what you want to achieve. Standards are the level you refuse to drop below. Non-negotiables are the specific rules you live by to maintain those standards. For example, goal: I want to be in great shape. Standard: I work out consistently. Non-negotiable: I move my body for at least 30 minutes every single day, no excuses. See the difference? Non-negotiables take your standards from vague to concrete. They tell you exactly what to do and when to do it. How to choose your non-negotiables. Your non-negotiables should support your biggest priorities: health, relationships, finances, personal growth, self-respect. Be realistic but challenging. They should push you to grow without setting you up for failure. Be specific. I'll eat healthier is vague. I won't eat processed sugar during the week is clear. Be action-based. Focus on what you do, not just what you want. Step 1. Identify what you will no longer tolerate. Start by making a list of the things you've been allowing that don't align with the person you want to become. Maybe it's letting people speak to you disrespectfully, spending more than you earn, skipping workouts when you're too tired, staying in relationships that drain you, letting fear decide your opportunities. These are the leaks in your life. Every time you tolerate one of them, your standards drop just a little bit. Step 2. Turn them into rules you live by. Once you know what you won't tolerate, flip them into clear, positive rules. For example, Instead of, I won't let people disrespect me, I set and communicate boundaries immediately. Instead of, I won't overspend, I save at least 20% of my income before I spend anything. Instead of, I won't skip workouts, I work out at least 4 times per week, even if it's just a walk or light training. The more specific you are, the easier it is to follow through. Step 3. Keep it simple. Start with no more than 5 non-negotiables. You want them to be so clear that you can remember them instantly, no matter where you are or what's going on. If you try to make a list of 20, you'll overwhelm yourself and end up following none. Remember, these are the foundation of your new life. Build it strong, then add more later if you need to. Step 4. Commit publicly or privately with consequences. Commitment is everything. The more accountable you make yourself, the harder it is to break your word. You can tell a friend or mentor your non-negotiables and ask them to check in weekly. Write them somewhere you see every day, your phone background, bathroom mirror, or desk. Attach a consequence to breaking one. For example, donating to a cause you don't support if you skip a workout. Accountability turns "I'll try" into "I must." What happens when you break a non-negotiable? Let's be real, you're human. You might slip. The key is what you do next. When you break a non-negotiable, acknowledge it immediately. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Identify what caused it: fatigue, distraction, poor planning, fear. Adjust your environment or routine so it's harder to break next time. The point isn't perfection, it's commitment. Your goal is to keep these rules so often that breaking one feels deeply uncomfortable, not normal. Examples of powerful non-negotiables. Here are some examples you can adapt. Health. I drink at least 2 liters of water every day. I never go more than 2 days without exercise. I prepare my own meals 5 days a week. Finances. I save a fixed percentage of every paycheck before spending. I never carry high-interest debt. I invest at least X amount each month. Personal growth. I read for at least 20 minutes every day. I spend 1 hour each week learning a new skill. I review my goals every Sunday evening. Relationships. I speak respectfully even in disagreements. I only spend time with people who inspire, challenge, or support me. I never stay in a relationship where trust is broken without repair. The confidence effect. When you live by your non-negotiables, something amazing happens. Your confidence explodes. Why? Because confidence isn't built by talking about what you'll do. It's built by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you follow through on a non-negotiable, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And when you trust yourself, raising your standards in other areas becomes effortless. The reality check. Here's the truth. Not everyone will understand your non-negotiables. Some will think you're being too serious or too rigid. But remember, their opinion doesn't pay your bills, improve your health, or give you the life you want. Your non-negotiables are not for them. They're for you. They are the structure that will hold up your dreams when the weight of life tries to crush them. Your challenge before the next chapter. Before we move on, write down 3 to 5 non-negotiables that will help you maintain the higher standards you're aiming for. Make them specific. Make them clear. And make them unbreakable. Read them out loud every morning for the next week. You're not just building habits. You're building the identity of a person who refuses to live below their potential. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful ways to raise your standards even further: surrounding yourself with people who pull you up instead of drag you down. Because no matter how strong your non-negotiables are, the wrong crowd can still chip away at them, and the right crowd can make them unshakable. Chapter 5. Surrounding yourself with people who raise you up. Let's get one thing straight from the start. Your environment is not neutral. It's shaping you, molding you, and either pulling you forward or holding you back, every single day. The people you spend the most time with are not just part of your story. They are part of your future. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Now, think about that for a moment. Not just as a catchy quote, but as a reality check. Who are your 5? Are they challenging you to be better? Are they pushing you toward your goals? Or are they quietly, maybe even unintentionally, keeping you exactly where you are? The truth is, it's not always about malicious intent. Most people don't wake up in the morning thinking, "I'm going to hold my friend back today." But human beings are naturally inclined to keep things comfortable. We resist change, even in others, because it disrupts the equilibrium we're used to. If you start raising your standards, making bold moves, and stepping out of your comfort zone, not everyone will celebrate it. Some will feel inspired, but others will feel threatened, insecure, or left behind. That's why, if you're serious about raising your standards, you need to be intentional about the people you allow into your inner circle. Let's break this down into 3 powerful truths about the influence of your relationships. Truth number 1. Energy is contagious. Whether you realize it or not, the moods, habits, and attitudes of the people around you seep into your own life. If you spend time with complainers, it won't be long before you find things to complain about. If you hang around dreamers, doers, and problem solvers, you'll start thinking in possibilities instead of limitations. Think of it like a thermostat. If your friends operate at a certain temperature of ambition, positivity, and resilience, you'll naturally adapt to that climate. If they're running cold, low energy, low drive, you'll slowly drop to match it. But if they're on fire with purpose, you can't help but warm up. Truth number 2. Proximity shapes perspective. Have you ever noticed how being around certain people makes big goals feel normal? That's the power of proximity. When you're surrounded by people who are constantly pushing for more, achieving more, and expecting more from themselves, you stop thinking of success as extraordinary. It becomes your new standard. If you've only ever been around people who settle for less, you'll see good enough as the finish line. But when you immerse yourself in a circle where excellence is the baseline, you begin to stretch what you believe is possible for you. Truth number 3. The wrong circle will cost you. This is the tough part, and for many, it's the reason they stay stuck. Because raising your standards will almost always require redefining your relationships. You might need to create distance from people you care about. You might need to say no more often. And yes, it can feel lonely at first. But here's the reality. If the people closest to you don't share your vision, they will unintentionally, or intentionally, hold you back. Sometimes it's subtle, a sarcastic comment, a doubtful look, a "be realistic" speech. Other times it's direct, telling you your goals are too big, too risky, or not worth the effort. Either way, the cost of keeping yourself surrounded by people who lower your standards is far greater than the discomfort of building a new circle. How to surround yourself with people who lift you higher. So, how do you actually find and connect with people who challenge you, believe in you, and push you to be your best? Audit your current circle. Take a serious look at the 5 to 10 people you spend the most time with. How do you feel after being around them? Motivated or drained? Supported or judged? Confident or uncertain? That emotional aftertaste will tell you a lot. Seek environments of growth. Join masterminds, attend workshops, network in spaces where ambition is the norm. Put yourself in rooms where you're not the smartest, most accomplished person there. It will stretch you in ways comfort never will. Model the energy you want to attract. People who are driven, positive, and high standard are drawn to others who radiate the same. Show up with that energy, and you'll naturally attract similar people into your orbit. Be willing to outgrow relationships. This one is hard, but necessary. Some relationships will naturally fade as your standards rise. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. You can love people from a distance while protecting your own growth. The ripple effect of a high-standard circle. When you intentionally surround yourself with people who inspire you, you start making better choices, not because you're forcing yourself to, but because it becomes who you are. You don't want to let your circle down. You don't want to be the one who doesn't show up. These people will call you out when you're slipping. They'll remind you of your potential when you forget. They'll cheer for you louder than you cheer for yourself, but they'll also push you harder than you'd push yourself. And over time, you'll notice something remarkable. You'll become that person for someone else. You'll be the one raising the bar in someone else's life. You'll be the reason they believe in more. Raising your standards is not a solo journey. You can start it alone, but to sustain it, you need people who see the best in you and demand you live up to it. They won't let you shrink. They won't let you hide. They'll hold you to the higher version of yourself, even on the days you don't feel like showing up. The right people won't just make you feel good. They'll make you be good. So ask yourself, who is in your circle right now? And who needs to be there if you truly want to live at the level you're capable of? Because at the end of the day, you don't just rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of your circle. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Consistency. If raising your standards is the rocket that launches you toward a better life, then consistency is the fuel that keeps you in motion. Without it, your journey stalls. You can have all the ambition in the world, you can dream of a higher life, and you can even start strong, but without the discipline to show up again and again, even when it's hard, you'll never sustain the level you're aiming for. Consistency is what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. And here's the thing, consistency is not glamorous. It's not exciting every day. In fact, many times, it feels downright boring. But those boring repetitions? They are where mastery is built, where standards are maintained, and where success becomes inevitable. You see, anyone can do the right thing once. Anyone can give their best effort on a good day. But only the truly committed can give their best effort day after day, even when they don't feel like it. That's what raising your standards demands, living them, not just declaring them. Let's break this down. There are 3 key truths you need to understand about the discipline of consistency. Truth number 1. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Most people believe that success comes from massive, intense effort. They wait for inspiration, go all in for a short period of time, then burn out. But life rewards sustained effort, not occasional sprints. Think about going to the gym. If you go once and work out for 5 hours straight, you might feel sore the next day, but you won't see lasting results. On the other hand, if you commit to 45 minutes, 5 times a week, over months and years, your transformation will be undeniable. High standards require that same steady investment. It's not about the one amazing presentation at work, it's about showing up prepared for every meeting. It's not about one weekend of being disciplined with your diet, it's about making healthy choices most days, over years. Intensity fades. Consistency compounds. Truth number 2. Consistency builds trust with yourself and others. When you are consistent, you prove to yourself that you can be relied on. This is self-respect in action. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you strengthen your identity as someone who keeps their word. Think about it. If you tell yourself you'll wake up early tomorrow, and you do, you've just reinforced the standard you set. If you skip it, you've lowered your standard without even realizing it. The problem is, each time you let yourself off the hook, it becomes easier to do it again. Consistency also builds trust with others. People learn they can count on you. In friendships, in business, in leadership, this is priceless. You become someone whose actions match their words, and in a world full of empty promises, that's rare. Truth number 3. Discipline and consistency are a muscle you build. Many people believe they either have discipline or they don't. That's not true. Discipline is a skill, a muscle, that grows stronger the more you use it. The first time you force yourself to stick to a schedule or push through discomfort, it's hard. The 100th time? It's second nature. The key is to start small. Commit to something you can actually keep up with. If your goal is to read more, don't start with an hour a day. Start with 10 minutes. If you want to save money, don't try to cut your expenses in half overnight. Start with a small, automatic transfer every week. Consistency grows in the same way you build a wall, one brick at a time. How consistency protects your standards. High standards are fragile at first. When you decide to raise them, you're swimming against the current of your old habits, your old environment, and even other people's expectations. Consistency is the armor that protects them. When you are consistent, your standards stop being something you try to remember, and instead become who you are. You no longer think, I need to be disciplined, because discipline is your default. This shift is powerful. It means you've internalized the behavior so deeply that it's no longer a decision. It's simply you living your truth. The boredom barrier. One of the biggest enemies of consistency is boredom. At some point, the excitement of your new standard will wear off, and you'll have to face the monotony of repetition. This is where most people quit. But here's the secret. Boredom is a sign that you're doing the right thing. Boredom means you've moved past the novelty and are in the stage where habits are formed. If you can push through that phase, you're on your way to greatness. Professional athletes practice the same drills thousands of times. Musicians play the same scales for years. Great writers put in hours of writing, even when they don't feel inspired. Success is not about avoiding boredom. It's about showing up anyway. Making consistency easier. If you want to sustain consistency over the long term, you have to make it easy to follow through. Here are a few strategies. Tie it to your identity. Don't say, I'm trying to be more disciplined. Say, I am a disciplined person. Identity drives behavior. Use systems, not willpower. Create routines, set reminders, prepare in advance. If you want to eat healthy, stock your kitchen with healthy food so you don't have to decide every time. Track your progress. A visual record, like a calendar you mark daily, can motivate you to keep the streak alive. Have accountability. Share your goals with someone who will check in on you. Reward yourself for milestones. Celebrate small wins to keep momentum alive. When consistency meets standards, you become unstoppable. The truth is, high standards without consistency are just a wish. Consistency is what transforms them into reality. When you commit to showing up, day after day, even in small ways, you will be shocked at how much your life changes. There's a saying, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. This is the heart of the discipline of consistency. If you want to raise your standards, you have to marry them to your actions. And those actions have to repeat over and over until they become automatic. That's when your standards stop being something you aspire to and start being something you live. In the next chapter, we'll dive into a truth that can't be avoided if you want to raise your standards even higher: the courage to step outside your comfort zone. Because consistency keeps you steady, but growth demands you keep stretching beyond what feels safe. Chapter 7. Stepping outside your comfort zone. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a diving board. Beneath you, the water glistens under the sun, but it feels a mile away. Your heart is pounding. Your palms are sweaty. And in that moment, you're faced with a choice. You can climb back down the ladder to safety, or you can jump. Raising your standards is a lot like standing on that diving board. You know what you want, you know you need to leap, but comfort, the safety of what you know, keeps whispering, stay here. It's warm. It's familiar. You're fine. The problem is, fine is the enemy of great. If you're truly serious about raising your standards, you must make peace with one unavoidable truth. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. Comfort is a trap disguised as safety. Comfort feels nice, but it's a slow trap. It gives you a false sense of security while quietly stealing your potential. Think about it. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. Many people convince themselves that they'll take big risks later, when they're ready. But here's the reality. You will never feel 100% ready. If you wait until fear disappears, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. High standards require you to act before you feel ready. They demand that you get comfortable being uncomfortable, because discomfort is where the magic happens. Why your standards live outside the comfort zone. If your current life fits neatly within your comfort zone, it's because your standards are still shaped by what feels safe. But safe isn't the goal. Better is the goal. Think of someone you admire who has achieved something remarkable. Maybe it's a business leader, an athlete, an artist, or even someone in your own circle. I can guarantee you one thing. Their success story is filled with moments of uncertainty, risk, and discomfort. They didn't get there by staying in familiar territory. They reached for something higher, something that stretched them beyond their current capacity. The fear that holds you back. Fear isn't always bad. It's a natural signal that you're doing something new. But left unchecked, it can become the loudest voice in the room. When fear kicks in, your brain will start feeding you rational-sounding excuses. I don't have the experience yet. What if I fail? Now's not the right time. Recognize these for what they are, protective lies meant to keep you in the comfort zone. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" try asking, "What will it cost me if I never try?" That shift in perspective is often enough to propel you forward. The growth formula. Small leaps add up. Stepping outside your comfort zone doesn't always mean a giant, terrifying leap. Sometimes it means taking a series of small, deliberate steps that stretch you just enough to grow. If public speaking terrifies you, don't start by giving a TED Talk. Start by speaking up in a meeting or sharing your opinion in a small group. If you want to run a marathon, start with a 1-mile jog. Each step you take rewires your brain to see discomfort not as danger, but as a pathway to progress. Discomfort is the training ground for confidence. Confidence doesn't come first, it comes after action. Every time you step into discomfort and survive, you send a message to yourself, "I can handle more than I thought." Think back to a time when you did something that once scared you. Maybe it was moving to a new city, starting a new job, or learning a skill you thought was out of reach. At first, it was uncomfortable. But after a while, that discomfort faded, and what once seemed impossible became normal. That's the power of stepping outside your comfort zone. It changes what normal means for you. The link between standards and courage. When you raise your standards, you're saying, "This is the level I will live at. Nothing less." But to live at that level, you'll need courage. You'll need to make decisions that feel risky. You can't say, "I want a better life," and then make choices that keep you small. Raising your standards without stepping outside your comfort zone is like wanting to swim without ever getting wet. A practical challenge to expand your zone. Here's something you can do today. Identify one area of your life where you've been playing it safe. Maybe it's your career, your relationships, your health, or a skill you've been avoiding. Write down one action that would push you slightly outside your comfort zone. It shouldn't paralyze you with fear, but it should make you a little nervous. Commit to doing it within the next 48 hours. Why the time limit? Because fear grows the longer you wait. Action starves fear. The promise on the other side. Yes, stepping outside your comfort zone will feel awkward. Yes, it will feel uncertain. And yes, sometimes it will be messy. But here's what I can promise you. Every single time you push past that line, your life will expand. Your confidence will grow. Your skills will sharpen. Your opportunities will multiply. And most importantly, your standards will rise, because once you've experienced more, you can't go back to less. High standards are not about perfection. They're about progression. And progression demands that you leave behind the safety of just enough and step boldly into more than I've ever done before. The comfort zone might feel like home, but the life you dream of is waiting outside it. The question is, will you take that step? Chapter 8. Setting Boundaries That Protect Your Standards. Picture this. You've been working on raising your standards for weeks, maybe months. You've been intentional about who you spend time with, what you say yes to, and the goals you're pursuing. You're finally feeling momentum. More focused, more confident, more in control. And then, out of nowhere, someone crosses a line. Maybe they disrespect your time. Maybe they talk to you in a way that you know isn't okay. Or maybe they try to pull you back into habits you've worked hard to outgrow. In that moment, all your progress is at risk. Why? Because no matter how high your standards are, they are only as strong as the boundaries you put in place to protect them. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are gates that protect what matters most to you. They are the lines you draw that say, "This is where my standards begin, and anything less is not welcome." Without boundaries, your standards will be constantly tested, and eventually they will erode. In this chapter, we're going to talk about the power of setting boundaries, why most people struggle to enforce them, and how you can create unshakable limits that protect the life you're building. Why boundaries are the bodyguards of your standards. Think of your standards as the VIP guests at an exclusive event, your event. They are the values, habits, and expectations you've chosen to live by. Now imagine trying to host this event without security at the door. Anyone could walk in, loud, disrespectful, chaotic, and disturb the entire experience. That's what life without boundaries looks like. You can say you value respect, but if you allow someone to speak to you in a demeaning way, your actions say otherwise. You can say you value health, but if you constantly allow friends to pressure you into breaking your commitments, you're sending a different message, to them and to yourself. Boundaries are your security team. They ensure that only what aligns with your standards gets through the door. The fear of setting boundaries. Here's the truth. Many people don't set boundaries because they're afraid. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of losing relationships. Afraid of being judged as difficult or selfish. But here's the bigger fear you should have. What happens to your life if you don't set them? Without boundaries, you become available to everyone's demands. You say yes when you mean no, and your time, energy, and mental space are constantly drained. And here's the paradox. You might think saying yes to everyone makes them like you more. In reality, it often has the opposite effect. People respect those who respect themselves. Clarity before communication. Before you can set boundaries, you have to know exactly what you're protecting. This is where your non-negotiables come back into play from Chapter 4. Ask yourself, what behaviors will I no longer tolerate from others? What environments drain my energy or make me compromise my standards? What habits or commitments are essential to my growth? The clearer you are about what you're protecting, the easier it becomes to articulate it to others. The art of saying no without guilt. One of the most common reasons people let their boundaries slide is guilt. You worry that saying no will hurt someone's feelings. You imagine they'll see you as cold or uncaring. But saying no isn't rejection, it's protection. It's protecting your time, your mental space, and your priorities. Here's a mindset shift that will help. Every yes to something that doesn't align with your standards is a no to something that does. And every no to something that pulls you backward is a yes to your future. Your tone matters, of course. Boundaries don't have to be set with anger or aggression. They can be calm, direct, and kind. For example, I'm not available for that right now. That doesn't work for me. I appreciate the offer, but I'll have to pass. Handling pushback. Some people will respect your boundaries immediately. Others will test them, sometimes without realizing it, and sometimes very intentionally. When this happens, you have to decide, will you hold your ground, or will you compromise to keep the peace? If you compromise, you teach people that your boundaries are negotiable. If you hold your ground, you teach them that your standards are non-negotiable. It's that simple. This doesn't mean you have to be rigid or inflexible in all areas of life. But in areas that protect your well-being, values, and future, firmness is essential. Boundaries with yourself. Here's a twist most people overlook. You don't just set boundaries with others. You also have to set them with yourself. If your standard is to wake up early, your boundary might be no phone scrolling after 10 p.m. If your standard is to be debt-free, your boundary might be no impulse purchases without a 24-hour wait. These self-imposed boundaries are the invisible guardrails that keep you aligned with your goals. And they are often harder to keep than the boundaries you set with others, because you are both the enforcer and the breaker. The ripple effect of boundaries. Once you start setting and enforcing boundaries, something interesting happens. Your self-respect grows. You start feeling more in control of your life. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. And the people around you start to adapt. Those who truly value you will adjust to your boundaries and may even start respecting themselves more because of your example. Those who don't will naturally fade out of your life, and that's a good thing. Remember, boundaries don't push the right people away. They filter out the wrong ones. Practical steps to set and keep boundaries. Know your standards. Revisit your non-negotiables. Write them down. Be specific. Start small. If you've never set boundaries before, begin with low-pressure situations. Practice saying no to small requests before tackling bigger ones. Communicate clearly. Be direct, polite, and confident. Avoid over-explaining or apologizing for your boundary. Expect resistance. Anticipate pushback and decide ahead of time how you'll respond. Follow through. If someone crosses a boundary, address it immediately. Inaction sends the message that the boundary wasn't serious. Hold yourself accountable. Review your own actions. Are you respecting the boundaries you set for yourself? Closing thoughts. Raising your standards is one of the most powerful things you can do for your life. But without boundaries, those standards are like a house without a lock on the door. Anyone can walk in and rearrange the furniture. Protecting your standards means protecting your future. And the truth is, you don't owe everyone access to your time, your energy, or your attention. You get to choose who and what gets close to you. As you move forward, remember, saying no to what doesn't serve you is not selfish, it's self-respect in action. And when you respect yourself enough to set strong boundaries, the world begins to respect you too. Chapter 9. Raising Standards in Every Area of Your Life. When we talk about raising your standards, it's easy to think about just one part of your life, maybe your career or your health. But the truth is, your standards affect everything. From your relationships to your finances, from your personal growth to how you spend your free time, every area of your life is connected, and raising your standards in one area often creates momentum for all the others. In this chapter, we're going to explore how to elevate your standards across the board. Because true transformation isn't piecemeal, it's holistic. When you raise the bar in every corner of your life, you become unstoppable. Why raising standards in all areas matters. Imagine you decide to commit to a high standard in your career. You work harder, learn more, and take on challenges. But if your health standards remain low, your energy and focus will eventually suffer. If your financial habits stay disorganized, stress will seep into your work and relationships. If you tolerate toxic friendships, your emotional well-being takes a hit. Your life is like a chain. Your overall quality depends on the strength of every link. One weak link can limit your progress no matter how strong the others are. That's why raising standards isn't just about a single goal. It's about building a foundation across all the critical areas that support your best self. The big 5 areas to raise your standards. Let's look at the 5 key areas of life where raising your standards makes the biggest impact. Health and wellness. Your body is your primary vehicle for life. When you prioritize your physical health with consistent exercise, nutritious food, quality sleep, and stress management, you fuel everything else. High standards here mean respecting your body's needs and refusing to settle for feeling just okay. Relationships. Who you spend your time with shapes your mindset, your confidence, and your happiness. Raising your standards in relationships means choosing connections that uplift you, communicating openly and honestly, and letting go of people who drain your energy or hold you back. Career and finances. Financial stability and purposeful work create freedom and peace of mind. High standards mean taking responsibility for your income, investing in your skills, and managing money wisely. It also means not settling for work that feels meaningless or beneath your potential. Personal growth. Your commitment to learning, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence fuels your evolution. Raising standards here means dedicating time to read, reflect, learn new skills, and confront uncomfortable truths. Growth is a lifelong pursuit, and standards keep it moving forward. Lifestyle and environment. The spaces you inhabit and the habits you nurture impact your mindset and energy. High standards here involve creating environments, both physical and mental, that support your goals, such as a clean workspace, mindful media consumption, and healthy routines. How to raise standards across multiple areas. Start by auditing each area. Ask yourself, where am I settling? What habits or beliefs hold me back? What would it look like to live at a higher standard here? Be honest and specific. For example, instead of, I want to eat better, say, I will prepare whole food meals at least 5 days a week. Instead of, I want better relationships, say, I will communicate my needs clearly and spend at least 1 hour a week nurturing my closest friendships. Next, prioritize. Trying to overhaul everything at once leads to overwhelm and burnout. Choose 1 or 2 areas to focus on first. Once you build momentum there, gradually expand. Integration, not isolation. Remember, the key to lasting change is integration. The standards you raise in one area should support your progress in others. For example, improving your sleep, health, will increase your focus and energy at work, career. Setting clear boundaries with friends, relationships, frees up time for personal growth activities like reading or journaling. When your standards work together, they create a powerful upward spiral. Examples of elevated standards. Here are examples of raised standards in each area to inspire you. Health. I prioritize 7 to 8 hours of sleep nightly and exercise for 30 minutes at least 5 days a week. Relationships. I only engage with people who respect my time and goals, and I communicate openly about my boundaries. Career/finances. I track all my expenses monthly and invest in courses to grow my professional skills. Personal growth. I read for 30 minutes daily and journal weekly to reflect on my progress. Lifestyle. I maintain a clutter-free environment and limit social media use to 30 minutes per day. Overcoming challenges. Raising your standards in multiple areas isn't always easy. You'll face resistance, from old habits, external distractions, and sometimes from people around you who don't understand your new direction. When that happens, return to your why. Why are these standards important to you? How will they serve your future self? Be patient with yourself. Growth is a process, and every step forward counts. Celebrate the ripple effect. One of the most motivating aspects of raising standards holistically is seeing the ripple effect. Small improvements in one area can spark breakthroughs in another. Maybe committing to a morning routine improves your mindset so much that you tackle work projects with more energy. Or deciding to spend quality time with loved ones reduces your stress and helps you sleep better. These wins create confidence and motivation to keep raising your standards, building a life that feels balanced, purposeful, and fulfilling. Your action plan. Conduct a personal audit of the 5 key areas. Write down specific, measurable standards you want to live by. Pick 1 or 2 areas to start with and create a simple plan for improvement. Track your progress and adjust as needed. Expand gradually to other areas as momentum builds. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to handle setbacks and failures without losing your momentum. Because raising your standards is not a straight path. It's a journey with ups and downs, and how you respond to challenges will define your long-term success. Chapter 10. Overcoming setbacks and staying resilient. When you commit to raising your standards, you're making a promise to yourself to aim higher, to push further, and to live better. But here's a truth that every successful person knows well. This journey is not a straight line. It's filled with setbacks, failures, and moments that test your resolve. How you respond to these challenges will determine whether you stay on course or fall back into old patterns. In this final chapter, we'll dive deep into the art of resilience, how to bounce back stronger, learn from mistakes, and keep your standards high no matter what life throws your way. Understanding setbacks. They are part of the process. First, let's redefine setbacks. A setback is not a sign that you're failing. It's simply a part of progress. Every meaningful change in history has been accompanied by obstacles. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit lies not in the absence of failure, but in the ability to keep going despite it. Setbacks can take many forms: a missed deadline, a broken habit, criticism from others, or even self-doubt creeping in. None of these moments diminish your worth or your potential. They're signals, redirections, that invite you to adjust your approach and keep moving. The power of perspective. Reframe failures. One of the most powerful tools for overcoming setbacks is perspective. Instead of viewing failure as a personal flaw or final verdict, see it as feedback. What can you learn? What can you improve? What part of your plan needs adjustment? When Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset transformed failure from a stop sign into a stepping stone. Ask yourself after any setback, what is this teaching me? How can I use this experience to raise my standards even higher? Cultivating resilience. The mental muscle. Resilience is not something you're born with. It's a skill you develop. Like a muscle, it grows stronger every time you face adversity and choose to keep going. Here are some ways to cultivate resilience. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness. Understand that setbacks don't make you less worthy. Maintain a growth mindset. Believe your abilities can improve through effort. This mindset helps you see challenges as opportunities. Build a support network. Surround yourself with people who encourage you and remind you of your strengths. Develop healthy habits. Physical health supports mental toughness. Sleep well, eat nutritious food, and exercise regularly. Stay connected to your why. Your purpose fuels perseverance. When motivation wanes, remind yourself why you set your standards in the first place. The role of accountability and reflection. Accountability partners, mentors, or coaches can be invaluable in helping you stay resilient. They provide perspective, encouragement, and honest feedback when you're tempted to quit. Equally important is your own practice of reflection. Regularly review your progress, celebrate wins, and analyze setbacks. Reflection turns experience into wisdom, allowing you to refine your approach and strengthen your commitment. Adjust without abandoning. Sometimes setbacks require you to adjust your plans. This is not quitting, it's being smart. High standards don't mean perfection or rigidity, they mean commitment to your growth. If a strategy isn't working, change it. If a goal feels overwhelming, break it into smaller steps. If you're exhausted, rest. The key is to keep your standards alive through flexibility and persistence. Harnessing the power of persistence. Persistence is the engine of transformation. It means showing up again and again, even when results aren't immediate. It means doing the work when motivation fades. Remember the story of the bamboo tree. 4 years, it shows no visible growth, but its roots grow deep and strong beneath the surface. Then suddenly, it shoots up 80 feet in a few weeks. The lesson? Growth is happening even when you can't see it. Your efforts now are building the foundation for breakthrough. Final thoughts. Your journey is unique and worth it. Raising your standards is a courageous choice. It's a commitment to a better version of yourself, even when the path is difficult. Setbacks will come. They are inevitable. But you have everything you need to overcome them. You have resilience. You have the lessons. You have the vision. Keep moving forward. Keep your standards high. And remember, the person who rises after falling is stronger, wiser, and closer to the life they deserve. Thank you for listening to this audiobook on how to raise your standards. Remember, raising your standards isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. Every choice you make, every boundary you set, and every challenge you overcome moves you closer to the life you deserve. If this journey has inspired you, I invite you to subscribe and follow for more empowering content designed to help you grow, stay motivated, and unlock your full potential. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more valuable tools for success. Keep raising your standards, keep pushing forward, and remember, you are capable of more than you realize. Stay strong, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next chapter of your journey.